Have you ever wondered if having fewer friends might actually make you happier after 70? It sounds strange, doesn't it? We've all been told that staying social is the key to a long and joyful life. But what if that's not entirely true? What if, instead of filling your calendar with coffee dates and phone calls, the real peace comes when you finally give yourself permission to let go of friendships that no longer bring you joy, and of the pressure to stay connected just because you feel like you should? In today's video, we're going to explore 6 surprising truths about why fewer friendships in your later years might not be a loss, but a gift. This isn't about isolation. It's about freedom. It's about finally living life on your terms, choosing calm over chaos, and finding fulfillment in places you might not expect. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may just see friendship and aging in a whole new light. 1. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. There's a quiet kind of power that comes with age, and one of the greatest gifts it brings is this: you no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. Think back to your younger years. How many decisions were made just to fit in, to please others, or to earn someone else's approval? Whether it was at work, in your social circle, or even within your family, so much of life felt like a performance. You dressed the part, smiled on cue, attended events you didn't enjoy, and maintained friendships that were more about image than connection. But now, after 7 decades of living, learning, and becoming, you finally understand that your worth isn't up for debate. You've worked hard. You've raised families, built careers, survived losses, and celebrated victories. You've played the game of life, and you no longer need a round of applause to feel like you've done it right. Take Harold, for example, a 72-year-old who spent most of his adult life in a high-powered corporate job. Always surrounded by people, he was never alone, but he often felt lonely. After retirement, many of those friends vanished. At first, he tried to keep the connections alive, phone calls, emails, holiday cards, but then he asked himself, why am I working so hard to hold on to people who were never truly there for me? That realization changed everything. Harold started spending time with himself. He picked up painting again, took long walks, and stopped saying yes out of obligation. For the first time in decades, he wasn't living to impress anyone. And you know what? He felt free. When you stop chasing validation, you reclaim your energy and redirect it toward what truly matters. Friendships built on pressure or performance fade, but in their place, you find something deeper: peace, clarity, and self-respect. After 70, the only person you need to impress is the one looking back at you in the mirror. And when you finally stop needing to be enough for others, you discover you've been more than enough all along. Point 2. Peace becomes more valuable than socializing. As we grow older, our definition of happiness begins to shift. In our younger years, it may have come from busy social calendars, group gatherings, dinner parties, and phone calls that never seemed to end. But after 70, something changes. Peace begins to matter more than people. It's not that you dislike others. It's not even that you're withdrawing. It's that the kind of noise that once brought energy now feels like a distraction. You begin to crave quiet, not just the absence of sound, but the kind of inner quiet that brings clarity, calm, and comfort. Take Margaret, for example. At 74, Her calendar used to be packed: weekly lunches, birthday parties, and Zoom calls with friends. But over time, those interactions began to feel more like obligations than joys. The conversations were repetitive, the energy was draining, and many of the people around her seemed more interested in gossip than genuine connection. One day, Margaret decided to stop. She stopped forcing smiles. She stopped accepting invitations she didn't look forward to. And most importantly, she stopped feeling guilty for choosing solitude over socializing. Instead, she started embracing her mornings. A cup of coffee in silence. A walk through the neighborhood at her own pace. Reading a book by the window without interruption. She found joy in stillness, and she realized that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means being in good company, your own. Here's the truth that few people talk about. Socializing can be exhausting. Even the best friendships come with expectations: returning calls, attending events, listening when you don't have the energy. But after 70, you've earned the right to protect your peace. You no longer have to explain yourself. You no longer have to show up if your soul is asking for rest. And when you stop filling every moment with others, you make space for something richer: reflection, healing, and joy that doesn't depend on anyone else. In the quiet, you find yourself again, and that kind of peace? It's not just valuable, it's priceless. 3. Fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. One of the hardest truths we face as we get older is realizing that not everyone we once called a friend was truly there for us. Over the decades, we pour our time, energy, and hearts into relationships. Some flourish, but many fade. And by the time we reach our 70s, it becomes painfully clear: the more people we try to hold on to, the more often we end up hurt. That's why fewer friendships can actually mean more peace. Because with fewer people comes fewer expectations, and fewer disappointments. William, now 78, used to have what he called a full circle: friends from college, colleagues from work, neighbors from over the years. He was always the one reaching out, organizing lunches, sending birthday cards. But slowly, people stopped showing up. They got busy. They drifted. Some only called when they needed something. Others just disappeared. At first, William blamed himself. Did I say something wrong? Did I not do enough? But eventually, he realized the truth. He wasn't the one who changed. He just stopped tolerating one-sided relationships. That realization set him free. When you let go of the need to maintain every friendship, you also let go of the pain that comes when those efforts aren't returned. No more waiting by the phone. No more disappointment when a message goes unanswered. No more putting your heart into something that doesn't give back. Instead, you begin to focus on the relationships that truly matter. Maybe just one or two people. Or maybe none at all for now. And that's okay. Because sometimes, the greatest gift isn't in keeping people around, it's in knowing who is really there when it counts. After 70, your energy is sacred. Your time is too valuable to spend chasing connections that drain you. So give yourself permission to step back. To say no more to friendships that bring more stress than joy. You're not being cold. You're being kind to yourself. And in that kindness, you'll find something beautiful: fewer friends. Yes, but also fewer wounds, fewer regrets, and a lot more peace. Point 4. Your time becomes more precious as you get older. When you're young, time feels endless. There's always another day to reconnect. Another weekend to catch up. Another year to make things right. But as you grow older, especially after 70, you start to see time differently. It's no longer just something to pass. It becomes sacred. Every hour, every morning, every quiet afternoon holds more meaning. And with that shift in perspective, something else becomes clear. Not everything is worth your time anymore. Friendships, especially the ones that feel more like obligations than true connections, can quietly steal that precious time. The long phone calls that go in circles. The lunch dates you agree to out of habit. The people who drain your energy, not add to it. Richard, now in his early 80s, used to be everyone's go-to guy. He never said no. He was at every dinner, every gathering, always checking in. But one day, after sitting through yet another lunch filled with complaints and small talk, he looked at his watch, not just for the time, but for what he was losing. And he asked himself, is this how I really want to spend my afternoon? That moment changed his life. He began to treat his time like gold, because that's what it is. He stopped showing up out of guilt. He stopped answering calls that left him feeling worse. Instead, he spent that time doing things that made his soul feel alive, walking in the park, reading stories that made him think, or simply sitting in the sun with a cup of tea and no expectations from anyone. And here's the truth. The fewer unnecessary friendships he kept, the more time he had for joy. After 70, your time is yours. You've earned every moment of it. And you have every right to protect it fiercely. If something, or someone, doesn't bring you peace, let it go, because you don't owe your time to anyone but yourself. And when you start spending it the way you want to, life begins to feel full again, in all the right ways. 5. True companionship comes from within. One of the most powerful realizations you can have after 70 is this. You are enough. For most of your life, you've likely been told that being social is essential, that you need people around you to feel fulfilled, to avoid loneliness, to stay young at heart. But what if the deepest sense of companionship doesn't come from others, but from within yourself? In your earlier years, life is often noisy. You're surrounded by coworkers, neighbors, family, and friends. There's always someone to call, somewhere to be, but rarely do we stop to ask, what do I need when I'm just with me? Eleanor, now 76, used to keep herself endlessly busy, coffee dates, book clubs, phone calls with old friends. But even with all that activity, she felt strangely disconnected. It wasn't until she spent a quiet morning alone, no plans, no phone, just her thoughts and a warm cup of coffee, that she felt something unexpected, peace. That day, she stopped fearing solitude. She embraced it. And that's where the shift happens. When you start enjoying your own company, you begin to understand yourself in a new way. You listen to your thoughts without judgment. You explore your interests without compromise. You make choices not to please others, but to honor your own spirit. True companionship is not about how many people you have in your contact list. It's about how comfortable you are in silence, how fulfilled you feel when no one is watching, how much kindness you offer to your own heart. And the beautiful irony? When you truly enjoy being with yourself, the right people tend to come into your life effortlessly. They're not drawn to what you offer them, but to the peace you radiate. So if you've ever felt like stepping back from social life means losing connection, think again. The most important connection you'll ever have is the one with yourself. And when that bond is strong, you're never truly alone. Because the best friend you'll ever know is already with you. Point 6. Letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. There's something quietly powerful that happens when you reach your later years. You begin to understand that letting go isn't loss, it's liberation. Letting go of friendships that no longer bring joy. Letting go of the pressure to stay socially active. Letting go of the belief that your value is tied to how many people you keep around you. Instead of clinging to relationships out of habit, guilt, or fear of being alone, you start asking deeper questions. Does this connection make me feel seen? Or does it make me feel tired? Do I keep showing up out of love or obligation? James, now in his late 70s, used to believe that staying busy with friends was the key to aging well. His days were filled with small talk and social plans, but deep down, he felt exhausted and unseen. One afternoon, after another forgettable lunch, he made a decision to stop showing up for others more than he was showing up for himself. That small act of self-respect led to a complete transformation. James stopped answering calls that felt draining. He said no to events that didn't bring joy. And he said yes to things that nourished him, walking in nature, journaling, learning something new, or simply sitting in the quiet of his home. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel alone, he felt free. Letting go doesn't mean closing yourself off from the world. It means creating space for what truly matters: peace, presence, and purpose. It means shedding the layers of expectation, social pressure, and emotional fatigue to return to something much more real, you. And here's the truth. Once you stop chasing the version of life others expect from you, you begin living the one that's actually meant for you. So if you've been holding on to friendships that feel heavy, ask yourself, what might open up in your life if you gently let go? Sometimes, the most fulfilling chapter begins not when you add more people to your world, but when you clear the space to finally breathe. As we come to the end of this video, I invite you to pause and take a breath. You've spent decades building relationships, showing up for others, and playing by society's rules. But now, you've earned something much greater: the freedom to choose peace over pressure, depth over distraction, and meaning over obligation. Letting go of friendships that no longer serve you isn't a sign of giving up, it's a sign of wisdom. It means you finally understand that your time, your energy, and your heart are sacred, and they deserve to be spent on what truly matters. You don't need a crowded room to feel worthy. You don't need constant conversation to feel alive. You don't need to prove your value to anyone. You already are enough. Whether you choose solitude, a few close companions, or simply your own beautiful company, the choice is now yours. That's the gift of growing older. It's the clarity to know what no longer fits, and the courage to let it go. So, if this message spoke to you today, I encourage you to carry it gently into your next chapter. Protect your peace, honor your needs, and remember, you don't have to be surrounded to be fulfilled. You just have to be aligned with who you truly are. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear these words today. Your support helps us continue creating content that informs, uplifts, and inspires. Thank you for spending this time with me, and until next time, take care of yourself. You're not alone, you're just free.